Bhagavatam ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, chapter 1, text number 12. I'm sorry? Is it 12?
10 through 12.
10 to 12, okay.
10 through 12. It's starting with the Naviyado Kuto Bhavanam Kavishto. Is that 10?
Yes, still okay. Yes. यदोपहुतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्टा किल पूर्वजेन अताह तन्मन्त्र त्रिशंवरीयान् यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदूरिकं वदन्ति यदोपहुता भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्टा किल पूर्वजेन अताह तन्मन्त्रदृशं वरीयन् यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदूरिकं वदन्ति यदोपहुतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्टा किल पूर्वजेन अताह तन्मन्त्रदृशां वरीयान् यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदूरिकं वदन्ति Devotees, यतोपहुतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्टा किल पूर्वजेन अताह तन्मन्त्रदृशां वरीयान् यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदूरिकं वदन्ति यदोपहुतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्टा अताह तन्मन्त्रदृशं वरीयान्
यदोपहुतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मंत्राय पृष्ठत् किल पूर्वजेन अताह तन्मन्त्रदृशं वरीयन् यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदूरिकं वदन्ति
Yada, when Upahutaha was called by Bhavanam, the palace, Pravishtaha entered, Mantraya for consultation, Prishtaha asked by Khila, of course, Purvajena, by elder brother, Ata, thus Aha said that mantra advice, Drisham, just suitable, Variyan, excellent, yet that which Mantrinaha, the ministers of the state, or expert politicians, Vaidurikam, instructions by Vidura, Vadanti of to say. Translation, please repeat. When Vidura was invited by his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, for consultation, he entered the house. And gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known. My instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Political suggestions by Vidura are known as expert, just as in modern times Pandita Chanakya is considered the authority in a good counsel in both political and moral instructions. Om ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कथा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। मुखं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं। परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरि ओम तत्सत्। We are in the third canto, chapter 1, text number 10 to 12. So, I had the good fortune of starting the canto 2. I had a good fortune of ending the canto 2 as well. So now we are in canto 3, and we are seeing the discussion is going on to Vidura, as it had started in the last canto also. Last chapter, the sages, the Nrishimhadeva, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, so they had a question about what happened to Vidura. Because Vidura is a very great devotee of Krishna, and he is always considered a very expert devotee, because his words are very perfect, appropriate to the situation, and loaded with a lot of instructions. Prahlad, yes, sit down. Thank you. So, Vidura is a very great devotee of Krishna, and he also happens to be the incarnation of Yamadharmaraja, or the god of death. So he is the best in the analysis of what is right and what is wrong, the judgment, making judgment. So here also we see the context is actually shifting towards what caused Vidura to leave the kingdom of Hastinapur. Why, what was the circumstances leading to his exit? So this was partially also touched upon in the first canto. In the third canto we see it is discussed in great detail. So we see how Shukadeva Goswami is also describing the situation leading to his exit. So he cites different instances where Vidura actually helped Pandavas. Pandavas were righteous, they were pious, they were always correct in their judgment, and therefore they were always on the side of Dharma. Whereas the Kauravas were always siding with Adharma. So Vidura always knew this, and he always had a paternal affection towards the Pandavas. Not just because that paternal affection because of they are his brother's sons, but also because they are righteous, they are very innocent. And whereas the Kauravas, headed by Shakuni, they were always plotting to kill the Pandavas in different ways. So the first verse also talked about how they were sent out to an excursion, picnic. In the name of picnic, they were put in a house which was made up of lac, and plan was to set it on fire and kill them right there. So, but Vidura knew this, and then he warned the Pandavas that this is going to happen, so be prepared. So by his expert help and expert advice to them, so they were able to somehow get saved. And there was an attempt made on them on the gambling match. So somehow or other, by Krishna's intervention, everything was saved. But again, because Yudhishthira Maharaj was very much attached to the rules of the Kshatriya Dharma, the codes of Kshatriya Dharma. If somebody is inviting you for any kind of match, whether it is gambling or a fighting match, so you should not buck away from it. You should go and accept the challenge. Tradishatri Dharma. Yuddhe chapi apalayanam. Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, if there is a challenge of war, then you should not run away from the war. So that same logic was used by the Kauravas, so that they knew that Yudhishthira was very much tied to the rules and regulations. So when you challenge him according to the rules, you play by the rules. They knew that. So they challenged him for a match of dice. And then what happened? So it's all history. And so they were banished. They were first defeated, and then attempt was made on to disrobe Draupadi. So this is very interesting. I was thinking as I was reading that there's a lot of parallels between Ramayana and Mahabharata. Very interesting parallels. So if you see, the center point of the whole, both Ramayana and Mahabharata, is the insult to woman. So in the first Ramayana, it was Mother Sita was abducted by Ravana. In this case, an attempt was made on Draupadi. So then, and also the whole thing that follows was, after that, the Pandavas, in the case of Mahabharata, they go through 13 years of an exile from the kingdom. And so does Lord Rama also was exiled for 14 years. And so this whole gambling match is actually a cheating process. In Ramayana also you see, before the kidnapping of Mother Sita, so there was a cheating attempt by Ravana. So he sent this deer, which is actually a Rakshasa in the form of a deer. So all a cheating attempt was made again. So before that was a very, the whole story before these two different events was very happy events. So it was all Rama coming, and he was in the match of the Sita Swayambara. So he wins over her by lifting that the great bow and then breaking the pieces. Just like Arjuna also did the same thing. So he took the bow and then he shot the arrow to piercing the eyes or eye of the fish the same way. So like that, so it's all a lot of parallels are there. So although the protagonist in this case is Yudhishthira, and here it is Lord Rama himself. And both of them were known to be always keeping their word and always following the rules and regulations perfectly. But so what follows is then after the exile of the kingdom, the war. Similarly, Ramayana also. So the war was fought at the end of the exile in the forest. And then finally there's a victory of good over the evil. So Ravana is overcome by Rama, and here the Pandavas are overcoming the Kauravas. So finally it is a victory of good over evil. So there's a lot of parallels there. So if you watch closely. So ultimately the point is that one has to follow Dharma. So once follow Dharma always ends up to it. So Yudhishthira and his brothers were always on the side of Dharma. But although Yudhishthira Maharaj was following Dharma to a great extent, but he also was not perfect. So in a couple of incidences it's not perfect, because of which Krishna had to come and intervene and give the proper counsel to him. Because the times have changed. The time of the Lord Rama, which was the Treta Yuga, and the times of Yudhishthira Maharaj was Dwapara Yuga. In Dwapara Yuga, the wise has already become more powerful than the wise and good qualities already has declined to a good extent. So the same logic doesn't apply. So Lord Rama was always righteous, he did not make any mistakes. But whereas Yudhishthira Maharaj, so he has to change the times, which he did not do. So the Dwapara Yuga, when he was invited for a gambling match, he should have found us a reason to avoid it, which he could have done it. If he wanted it, he could have avoided it by giving a reason. That you cannot fight with the brothers. You can always find a reason within the codes of conduct, and you could have avoided the whole fight. Whereas in Rama's times, in the Treta Yuga, so the wise had not become so prominent yet. So it was still there was Dharma there. So it was still, Treta Yuga is 1/4 decline of Dharma. Whereas Dwapara Yuga is 2/4 decline of almost half Dharma is gone. So definitely Yudhishthira Maharaj should have thought on those lines, but he did not. Same thing also happened in the war also. He was asked to say that Ashwatthama was killed. So he was very hesitant to say, although it was Krishna himself saying that, you should say this. So actually Ashwatthama, the elephant, was killed. So he wanted him to say Ashwatthama was killed, but he did not hesitate to say. So then when Yudhishthira said Ashwatthama, the elephant was killed, the time the elephant was said, the time Krishna blew his counsel. That way the Dronacharya, he was on the other side, he heard it. He could not fully hear that Ashwatthama, the elephant, was killed. So he thought Ashwatthama, his son, was killed. And it is Yudhishthira who is saying this. And if Yudhishthira says this, it cannot be lied. So immediately he accepted that this is really a fact. And then he put his bow down and he was mourning for it. At that time, Dhritarashtra, he came down from his chariot and he killed Dronacharya. This all happened in the Dwapara Yuga. So Dwapara Yuga was a different scenario. So Yudhishthira Maharaj should have followed the counsel of Lord Krishna. So that was what, that is very good instruction from that. So but here coming back to this Vidura, so this happens, so as Shukdev Goswami is continuing to say the different events, so he also cites that incidents when exactly when the end of the exile happens, and then all the Pandavas are going to come and they are asking for the rightful kingdom. And before they themselves come, so they didn't want to come there because they didn't want to be snubbed like that. So they knew that there's a possibility of being snubbed. So they sent Lord Krishna first. Because Lord Krishna is respectable, and Lord Krishna coming and asking will be the best situation. Because Lord Krishna's brother is Balarama, and Balarama is the guru of Duryodhana. So in many ways, Krishna has a weight. He carries a weight. Also, there is everybody knows to some extent he is not an ordinary person. Although they do not know exactly how he is not an ordinary person. So Krishna is known to be very special and powerful, and he is the brother of Balaram. For all these reasons, he was sent as a messenger to Dhritarashtra. So then when the peace mission failed, then so that time Dhritarashtra asked for Vidura's opinion. So Vidura, what do you think? Because he is his brother, Dhritarashtra's own brother, and he is known to be fully learned in all the different subject matters. Comes whether it is spiritual or material, in all aspects he is very well learned. That is Vidura. So that's why Dhritarashtra always asks for his counsel. But many times although Vidura's counsel was against his own thought, his thought prevailed. So what is the point in asking for a counsel? Dhritarashtra would ask for a counsel, and when Vidura says good advice, give good advice to him, he would prevail over that advice and he will do what he is planning to do. But he would still ask for his counsel from his younger brother, Vidura. So in this case also he did the same thing. So he asked for his counsel. So what should we do now? So now Krishna's peace mission is back. He has come here and asking for the kingdom. So what should be done? So then Vidura was very, very clear that their exile is complete. They completed their 12 plus 1 years of exile, 12 years in the forest and 1 year incognito. So there is no fault in them. So they have completely fulfilled their task, and they come back. So you have to give back the kingdom. So this was the advice that Vidura gave him. But here Dhritarashtra was not planning to do that. So he already had in his mind that he didn't want to give the kingdom back to his brothers, his nephews. So his plan was to again keep some or other Duryodhana. And his desire was that, but he did not know how to do that. And that idea was coming from the Duryodhana and his company, especially Shakuni. So they gave that idea. So you should somehow find a fault in this whole calculation that actually they did not fulfill the task given to them. So they have to go back on 14 years of exile. So they were trying to find fault, which is for no reason, which is not correct. So that's, and again ends up in the war. So because when you ignore a good counsel by a great soul, then only unfortunate situation happens. And especially that's what happened here also. So in many situations, the same situation happens. Just like Vidura's counsel was rejected, And Vidura in fact was banished from the kingdom. Duryodhana called him bad names, and then he said that he is actually an spy of Yudhishthira. And that he says in the next two verses. Ajata Shatru Pratiyachadayi Pratikshato Durvisham Tavagaha Sahajuno Yatra Nukodara Hari Swasha Rusha Yatvam Alam Viveshi. What does it say? You must now return to the legitimate stand of Yudhishthira, who has no enemies, who has been forbearing, though untold suffering due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is a revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him. So the text number 12. Vartam Sudevo Bhagavan Mukundo Vihitavan Shakshiti Deva Deva Ashte Swapuryam Yadu Deva Devo Vinir Videshesha Naradeva Devaha. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, accepted the son of Buddha, kingsman, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family and the kings and the princes of the dynasty, who has conquered the unlimited number of rulers, and he is their Lord. So Vidura is also saying, it's not just that it is right to give the kingdom back, but think about the situation. Here Yudhishthira is not just alone, he's come with Krishna. And Krishna is not an ordinary person, the supreme personality of Godhead. And so you know about the Yadu dynasty, who's unconquerable. Yadu dynasty cannot be won over. They have got victory in every war that they have fought. So there is no possibility that you can win over Pandavas, especially with Krishna. So he also gave them a spiritual viewpoint and also material viewpoint. Material viewpoint, see, your forces, you might be thinking very powerful, but Krishna is there on the other side. There is no way you can win over him. So what happens? So Duryodhana becomes extremely angry, and he is saying that Vidura is actually a son of a mistress. He doesn't deserve to be here. He is to be sent out. So just throw him out. So Duryodhana says such a very harsh words to Vidura, and Vidura understands that this is actually the act of providence. So it is the plan of Krishna that this is going to happen like this, and he did not take any offense on that. He just left it for the fate to work out. So that's what happens. So when a great soul is not honored, so then only unfortunate circumstances follow. So eventually leading to that complete defeat of the Kauravas. So this is a history repeating itself many, many times. So even in the court of Ravana, so what happened was Ravana was asking, so now that the whole Rama's army has come to Lanka, so what should we do? So when Ravana was asking this, so everybody was just saying, oh Ravana, you're a mighty king, you have conquered every kingdom on this place, on this earth. These are just mere humans. What can they do to you? And they're just a bunch of monkeys. There's no way they can defeat you. So don't even think twice about it. Just go and fight with them. You're going to be victorious. But Vibhishana was the only one who stood up and said, both the spiritual and material viewpoint. He said, spiritually, Ravana, you're wrong. So you are on the wrong side. You have taken someone else's wife. You don't deserve to do that. So a Kshatriya can go and take away someone else for marriage, or a princess, but she should not be married. You cannot do this to a married woman. So it's a great insult. A Kshatriya marriage sometimes happens by force, which is acceptable in the court of Dharma. But in this case, you've taken away a married woman. It's totally incorrect. So you're spiritually wrong. And materially also, you are definitely going to be defeated. Lord Rama, don't even doubt about this. Now Rama is not ordinary person. See, he is king, the great king Vali. This Vali has defeated you. He has bound you in his tail and he has thrown you like this. So this Vali was killed by Rama. So think twice about this thing. So even by mere material calculation, he is much more powerful than you. He is definitely going to defeat you. So when Vibhishana said like that, so Ravana became extremely angry. And so he threw him out of his kingdom. He banished him from his kingdom. And what resulted was, you all know the history. Ravana was defeated. So this is the history repeating itself. So in Ramayana also same thing happened, and here also same thing happened. Krishna himself came here as Duta, and he is asking for just 5 villages. But Yudhishthira and his company, Duryodhana and his company were not ready to even give a single piece of land. So the whole war has to be fought over, and ultimately they were defeated. So it's interestingly, in the Chanakya situation also very interesting, the same thing happened. So if you don't know about Chanakya Pandit was a great Brahmana. In the modern times, more than Kali Yuga, this is about 3,000 years back. So Chanakya was also a great Brahmana. So he was in the council, he was a minister in the kingdom of Nanda dynasty. So there was a king by the name Dhanananda. So he was ruling over the king. He was known to be an extremely a king which has no proper way to rule over. So he was completely lost in drinking and just having amusement and entertainment. So he had actually not a very qualified king. So Chanakya was a very able administrator, not administrator, he was able counsel, he was a great Brahmana. So he was trying to give him good advice to Dhanananda. So but he was not liking it. So one day he decided to just throw him out. So you don't deserve to be here. So you are you don't want a supporter of the king. So you are actually a spy of enemy kingdom. So he wanted to banish him. So then at that time, Chanakya Pandit, he made a vow that I am not going to tie my shikha until I dethrone you and completely rid you out of this kingdom. Until I do this, I am not going to tie my shikha. So he left the kingdom. Everybody was laughing at him. Oh, this Brahmana, this poor Brahmana, what is he going to be able to do? He's just a useless Brahmana. That is Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga people don't even recognize the value of good counsel, value of a Brahmana, value of a learned person. So they just threw him out. So this Chanakya Pandit, and he trained this, he took a person from the Chandragupta Maurya. He was just a Shudra person, but he trained him to become a very good valiant king. He taught him on the codes of proper conduct of the king, and he trained him on martial arts. So he completely trained him on all these aspects, and then he made an army, and then he fought with this Dhanananda. So finally in the war, Dhanananda was defeated, and then Chandragupta Maurya was installed as a king. So this also happened in the same Chanakya Pandit's lifetime. So if anybody who is refusing a good counsel from a Brahmana, from a good devotee, then there is no hope for it. So he is definitely going to be defeated. His good time has come to an end. So Ravana till the time was unconquerable, practically. I think he insulted Vibhishana. Nobody could defeat him. He did not even face even a single defeat, except with Vali, of course, he was defeated. And similarly, same with Duryodhana also. His time was good. He was ruling over the kingdom, and everything was perfectly fine. So, but he ignored Lord Krishna's counsel, ignored Vidura's counsel, and unfortunate situations started happening. So this is a history repeating itself again and again. So one should always respect great souls. One should always respect pure devotees of Krishna. So if anybody is disrespecting, then definitely he is going to fall down from the situation. So let me read the purport from the text number 12. So I'm covering from text number 10 to text number 12. It's got some purport. Let me read that. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Vidura gave Dhritarashtra good counsel regarding political alliance with the son of Pritha, the Pandavas. The first thing he said was Lord Krishna was intimately related with them as their cousin. Because Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, he is worshipable by all Brahmanas and demigods, who are the controllers of the universal affairs. Besides that, Lord Krishna and his family members, the royal order of the Yadu dynasty, were the conquerors of all kings of the world. The Kshatriyas used to So that is why, so Krishna decides to, when he leaves this planet, he decides to also take away the Yadu dynasty. Because Yadu dynasty is unconquerable. They got all powerful, great warriors like Satyaki and so many great warriors. So, as long as Krishna was there, so he would keep them under control. But if Krishna was to leave them, then definitely they won't just run amok. It will only cause more disturbance to people. Because fighting is okay for good reasons. Right? You can fight just like Yudhishthira fought with the Kauravas for a good reason. But just fighting for no reason just makes no sense. So that is the main purpose for which Krishna came, in order to reduce the burden of the earth planet, which was all with this Kshatriyas who were just fighting wars for no reason, killing people and ruling kingdom by force. So all these things has to end. So Krishna's plan, the purpose of his coming itself was that he would get rid of this all the Kshatriya, unnecessary Kshatriya, the burden of the earth planet. So for that purpose, so he had come. So Yadu dynasty left alone would have been a great disturbance in the whole world, earth planet. So he first decided to first get rid of them. So in this Prabhasa Kshetra, they all went there in the name of celebrating, and then they were all drunk, so they killed each other. And then finally, after all of the Yadu dynasty has been killed, so then Krishna himself left this planet. So, but one of the grandson of Krishna was installed as a king after that, Vajranava. So Vajranava was a very wonderful king. So he actually went and he excavated many of the places of pastime of Krishna, the Mathura and the different places. So Vajranava also was a very good king. So Yadu dynasty was completely destroyed. Prabhupada is saying this Yadu dynasty was undefeatable. Then goes on to say, Kshatriyas used to fight the kings of various dominions and kidnap their beautiful princes and daughters after conquering their relatives. This system was laudable because Kshatriyas and the princes would be married only on the basis of rivalry of the conquering Kshatriya. All the young princes of the Yadu dynasty married the daughters of other kings in this way, by force. And thus they were conquerors of all the kings of the world. Vidura wanted to impress upon his elder brother that fighting the Pandavas was fraught with many dangers because they were supported by Lord Krishna, who had conquered even in his childhood. Demons like Kamsa and Jarasandha and demigods like Brahma and Indra. Therefore, all the universal powers was behind the Pandavas. So here Vidura is also reminding how Krishna was the instrumental king in Jarasandha. Jarasandha was a very powerful fighter. He had defeated all the kings in the whole place. And he was part of the Yadu dynasty also. So he collected the princes of all the kingdoms, and he actually wanted to sacrifice them, a big sacrifice, and Bhairava. So just like the Narakasura, so he collected all the princesses from all the kingdoms, and he was going to sacrifice them. So Lord Krishna went and saved them, and he married all the 16,108 princesses. The same way, Krishna also delivered the princes who were all captured by this Jarasandha. So he had Bhima fight with him and he killed him so that all the princes can be delivered. So they were all kept for sacrifice. So like that. So this was the Kshatriyas used to go and fight, and then they used to, after the fight, they used to bring the princesses back. But they would not just come and just bring them and then keep them. So they would marry them. They would give respect to them and give in marriage and properly give them due respect and make them queen. So that is a proper behavior of Kshatriya. Not just go and rape women and things like that. So that is extremely condemnable. That's what happens in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, all fighting is for just for creating unwanted destruction, unwanted killing of people and all these different things. But the Kshatriyas were fighting for a good cause. If they think the other king is not properly conducting himself, properly following the codes of Dharma, then they would go and fight. Just like Lord Krishna also fought with Rukmi, and then he defeated her, and then he married the princess. In the same way, so that was allowed for Kshatriya. But even the fighting should be for a good reason. So even Lord Rama did not fight without a proper engagement. Prahlad, please don't sit in one place. So Lord Rama sent two messengers. First he sent Hanuman to first make peace. It was not working. Then he even sent Angada. After coming to Lanka, before coming to Lanka, he sent Hanuman. After coming to Lanka, he sent Angada, son of Vali. And he said that I come here to Lanka, I have my army, and I'm giving you one last option. So return back my wife or go back. I don't want to fight. I don't want to cause unwanted killing of people. So I want to go back. So if you don't do this, then I'm going to fight. And I'm not going to stop the fight until I see you dead. In fact, even the fight ensued. So Ravana himself came out to fight with Rama. And that time also Rama defeated Ravana once before killing him. He defeated Ravana. Then he said, give back my wife now, I will leave you. So, but Ravana was not ready for that. So Ravana, okay, then he even gave him a chance. You go back today, you will come tomorrow. He didn't kill him immediately. So many opportunities were given. Same thing Krishna also is trying to do. So people say Krishna is a warmonger. He is causing the war. He is asking Arjuna to fight. But same Krishna, they won't understand. Krishna came as a messenger of peace. And he's coming in and asking for peace with the Kauravas. And we do not disrespect it there also. So this is the people who always want to find fault, they always keep finding fault. Whether it is, they don't understand the full story. So that's very important instruction by Prabhupada and Srimad Goswami, that one should always get good counsel from wonderful devotees and pure devotees of Krishna. Otherwise, we don't have good future. So stop here. Any questions, any comments from devotees? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
It's just nice to hear this all again. Really nice.
Thank you.
The details, I didn't realize Duryodhana was Yamaraj. Am I saying it right? I didn't realize that.
Duryodhana was not Yamaraj.
Vidura. Oh, yes, I knew that part. Okay, that's why I was confused. I thought you had said Duryodhana, like